How are my favorite girls in the world doing? I'm so excited to be here for another episode. Today we're going to be talking about self-devotion. It's something that I talk a lot about on my Instagram, my social media, because it is so defining to the life that you're creating for yourself, right? Like growing in your journey and reaching your goals, like pursuing your dreams, that's beautiful. And of course, it's beautiful that you have a direction, that you know where you want to go. But at the same time, that should never take away from living in the present moment and creating the best quality of life that you can create right here, right now. Like those things don't come just because you accomplish goals. Those things don't come just because you get into a relationship or you meet different people or, etc., etc. Like you should be able to create some level of well-being and fulfillment and, positive, empowering state of being right here where you are and not wait for those goals to be accomplished, because that's actually only delaying you being in your higher self. Like the energy that you are embodying right now, that has such a big impact towards those goals and towards the vision that you're creating. And most importantly, like when you are showing up as that best version of yourself, meaning as a version of yourself that is walking with confidence, that is showing up, that is able to be consistent, like that can truly only be sustainable when you are prioritizing that self-devotion on a daily basis. And the reason why I want to talk about this, obviously because we talk so much about becoming your own standard, and I'm actually creating something really cool for that, like an entire week or more workshop around becoming your own standard so that you can set a new standard for your life. But just to give you an idea, like I think it's so important that we are learning to show up as the person who already has it, that we are already showing up with the level of confidence, self-respect, with the level of I am sacred that we want to create for our future. That doesn't come again from the results that we have from all these external things. If we're living and waiting for the external to happen, truly, I don't think we ever feel fulfilled, because fulfillment literally is about being filled. How can you be filled if you are outsourcing that and not actually nurturing yourself from within? Like ultimately, that is what makes the most difference. And in the last week and a half or so, I felt like I was derailing a bit. Like I felt like I was unfocused and feeling a little emotional, dysregulated, just like spiraling a lot. Finding myself going back to old patterns and old narratives that I know I want to outgrow, that I know I'm ready to outgrow, but just like kind of wanting to get cozy and let myself just slide away instead of actually taking the accountability and being like, okay, let's lock it the fuck in. Why am I allowing myself to go there again when I know that's not what I want? And so I was just like really spiraling out of control. And the only thing that allowed me to kind of like break that cycle and really like renew that energy, renew that mindset so that I can continue to show up as I actually want and not according to these old ways of being. Like the only thing that allowed me to like interrupt that pattern and that cycle and that spiraling was getting back into self-devotion. Like the rituals that you create in your life, they are so meaningful. They're so much more meaningful than you might imagine. The way you wake up, choosing to scroll rather than, meditating or just taking a little breath, or choosing to eat a nurturing breakfast, or choosing to like not eat at all and just get straight into getting coffee or something. Like those things make a difference. And most importantly, like choosing to stay aware and consciousness of your state of being and continuing to like kind of support yourself throughout that, because it's normal that your emotions and that your like state of mind, that your mood fluctuates. I think that's so normal, especially if you have a lot of hormones, if your hormones fluctuate every 28 days or 30 days, it's very normal that some weeks you're gonna feel high in energy, you're gonna feel like really pumped, and some weeks you're gonna feel sluggish and slow, and like it's gonna be harder to follow through in certain ways. Like, I don't think you need to force yourself out of those like natural occurrences in your body. I think it's more that you need to support yourself and meet yourself where you are, not forcing, not pushing, but actually like looking, actually like paying attention and seeing and being like, okay, I'm here right now. This is how I'm feeling. This is how much energy I have. So how can I move forward? And actually, like, I feel like saying I have a self-check-in audio exercise that you can do on the Girls in Growth store. This is just like literally 10 minutes. It doesn't take too much of your time, but it actually allows you to like check in with yourself, reset your energy, reground. This is something that I do very often. Like a few months ago, I was even setting an alarm every like hour or every 2 hours or something, so that I could do this exercise. Sometimes at work, I would literally just go to the bathroom for a little, and doing those types of practices, it helped me get into a place of security, safety with myself, but also from a place of really taking accountability for changing how I'm showing up. If you just let your mood swings determine how you show up, you're always going to be volatile to that. And again, especially if you have so many hormones that are doing so much in the background, it's just really easy to let that be the reason why you are not showing up and why you are not taking the steps that you can take. It doesn't mean that you always have to show up in the same way, but that sense of devotion and commitment towards yourself, like that is so important in order to build a life that you want, in order to also feel accomplished, not just by your goals, but by the person that you are showing up as, by who you are being, by, you know, the woman that you're becoming. I think that is already in itself so gratifying, so rewarding, so fulfilling, that sometimes so much so that the goal doesn't matter that much anymore. Like, it still matters, you still want it, but you're more detached from it. That's also what I realized. Like, I was getting so laser focused on accomplishing certain goals, but the thing is, when you kind of take away everything else in your life, I find, and this is my, like, because I know there's some people that are like, oh, obsessed, get obsessed in this, and I stopped living, I didn't have a social life, and that's how I accomplished this. Like, that's fine, I guess, you know, but truly that's not who I am. I don't think that's who I want to be. And I feel like for those people who don't relate to that type of lifestyle, it's important to know that there's another way of doing things, that you can choose a way that serves you best. There's not only one way of succeeding in life. There's not only one way of being happy or creating the life of your dreams or being a woman that you're in love with. You do not have to follow everyone else's example, but it's obviously so beautiful to know that there's so many ways of living and so many choices available for you, but ultimately that you need to follow what's true to your heart and your body. And to me, hustling all the time or not having a balanced life, that's not something that I want. Like, I want to socialize. I want to have my mornings where I can be with myself and have my, like, at least one day of the week where I'm doing absolutely nothing, and I want to watch Netflix from time to time or read a book or, you know, go outside just for the sake of going outside. Like, to me, that's important, right? Because that's the type of life that I also want to live in the future. I don't want to just work and that's it. Like, I want to have a full-on lifestyle. I don't want to live for work. I want work to be a passion. I want work to be a choice more and more, obviously. And I'm building towards that. And it's such a journey. But my point is, like, if I already envision that my future is going to have certain routines or certain rituals or certain values, I want to, like, learn to honor those values right here, right now. So whether that's resting, honoring my well-being, protecting my peace, whether that's also pursuing my goals and being courageous, like being brave, whatever it is, but like, I'm trying to honor that right now, because that's how I close the gap, right? Like, that's how you really close the gap. It's by embodying your future self and acting as if you're already her, because you are. Because the thing is, you aren't like, maybe I'm going a bit too philosophical on you, but you are not anything. does that make sense? Like, you are nothing. If you think about it, like, there's nothing that tells you, oh, this is who you are. Here's your, like, document. Here's who you have to be forever. Here's what makes you you. Like, you actually decide that for yourself. Like, if you truly think about it, you can change yourself at any point in life. You can change yourself at any point of the day, even. And there's just no predestined, like, obligation that you have. Like, if you want to switch things up, if you want to change the narrative, if you want to change how you're showing up, like, literally you can do that at any point in your life, at any point of the day. And maybe that can also set you free, because it's like, I want to live like that. I want to already feel that level of peace and harmony and fulfillment. I want to feel that level of passion in my life. So how can I, like, choose those things right here, right now with what I have? And the worst thing you can do to yourself is tell yourself that the circumstances aren't right, the timing isn't right. Like, that is bullshit, by the way. Those are excuses, and I'm learning to clock it for myself as well. It's not always easy, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is an excuse, and then I'm like, fuck, shit. So I think it's normal to feel a bit intimidated when you are actually taking accountability for your life, and you're like, oh, now I gotta do something about it. But it's also so fucking empowering. And that all comes from self-devotion. And devotion to self, it doesn't mean devotion to your ego. And it doesn't mean devotion to who you've always been. It doesn't mean that you have to be loyal to your old ways. It's actually quite the opposite. It means that you get to be devotional towards who you truly desire to be, how you truly desire to show up, what's actually aligned with the life that you want to build for yourself. That's what you're devoted to. That's the self that you're devoted to your future self. To the, like, to what you want to build, to who you want to become. That's what you're devoted to. And when you start thinking about all the rituals and all, like, the lifestyle that you want to implement right here, right now with what you have, I think that really helps you build a sense of, like, a foundation that helps you build the rest. When you neglect the foundation and you neglect basically yourself in a way, like when you are not actually paying attention to your well-being, when you stop regulating, when you stop checking in with yourself, when you are just, like, going into this, like, routine of not being mindful or being in autopilot and just doing things as they come because that's how they always go, and you're not actually checking in, you're not, like, clocking yourself and being like, okay, is this what I actually want? Is this actually how I want to show up? Like, if you're not being intentional, I guess that's what I want to say. Like, if you're not being intentional about how you're living and you're not creating that, like, baseline, that foundation where you can bring yourself into a better energy, into a more receptive energy, into a more open energy, into a more, like, regulated, secure energy, like that, it becomes really hard to hold space for anything else. It becomes really hard to step outside of your comfort zone, hold space for, more abundance, more love, because opening up is vulnerable, like, it takes bravery, it takes courage, it takes strength, it takes puss, okay? It doesn't take just balls, okay? Balls are actually fucking weak. Puss, though. Those things literally rip apart and get babies out. So when people are like, oh, you gotta have the balls, I'm like, no, you actually gotta have the puss, because that's the strongest motherfucker alive, you know what I mean? Okay, getting back. My brain, just bringing myself back into my train of thought here. But so I think that's the most important thing. So really think about, what type of rituals do you want to implement? And again, so I'm going to give you a little bit of context, because these last few weeks, like, I think about my commitments for this year, and a big part of that is scrolling 50% less, checking in with myself every week. It's 10 minutes of silence every day. And with the scrolling 50% less, it also comes with, like, having more hobbies and doing things, like, even when I don't want to leave the house, like reading a book or, making bracelets or painting or whatever I want to do, make music. And also regulating my nervous system. Like, those are things that I decided for a reason. Like, right? Like when you think about a habit that you want to implement, usually there's a reason for that. Usually you got to a point in your life where you realize like things are not working out the way they're being done right now. Like I'm not feeling good where I am. And then you decide to change it. Like you need to remember why you decided that. And I think I needed to go back to those goals and those commitments and really like just anchor into my why, into why I decided that those things were important. And if I think about 2025, you guys already know that like it was a really hard year for me. I went through a lot of grief, I went through a lot of pain, I went through a lot of just confusion and not really, a full-on crisis. And what helped me bring me back to myself, what helped me bounce back, like it was those rituals. It was regulating myself often. It was checking in with myself. It was prioritizing my well-being. Like that's what allowed me to open up. And so I started thinking, right, like I'm spiraling out of control and I'm feeling frustrated with everything and I'm complaining and I'm in lack and I'm just like anxious and stressed and tired and there's so much tension in my body. And then I started realizing like, wait, I haven't been really doing these things anymore. Like in the past couple of weeks, I've been maybe like neglecting that a bit because you think like, oh, I don't need those things anymore. But then you actually do, because those are the things that sustain everything else. So you need to really understand what type of, commitment, ritual, what type of what does self-devotion look like for me in this season of my life? How can I show up in the best way right now and really choose those things because they make you better, not because someone tells you have to journal every day or you have to do your affirmations or your FD tapping or this or that. There's so much out there. Oh my god, so much information, and it does not help you whatsoever. Just choose something, even if it's one thing. I'm journaling a few times a week. I'm not journaling every day, and if I journal every day, it's my choice, right? And the reason why I'm scrolling 50% less, it's not because someone on the internet told me to do so. It's because I know it's what's best for me right now. I'm choosing it out of where I want to be, and that's my intentional decision. That's my intentional commitment. That's also something that I feel like there's a reason why we fall out of certain things. It's because the reason why we're doing them is more because we want to feel enough or we want to feel accomplished and when we want to feel worthy in some way, and not really because it's aligned with who you want to be and how you want to live your life. You got to think about it, right? Whether it's actually socializing more or whether it's socializing less, whether it's doing more activities or whether it's resting more and doing things that actually allow you to relax and just recharge. It really depends on the life that you're currently living and what needs the most attention from you. That's your decision, but you get to explore that, and it gets to be, personalized to you. Don't just do things because, again, it's self-devotion. It's not other people's devotion. It's not devotion to something else. It's devotion to you and who you want to be, how you want to show up. And so I think that's something that I really had to just think about. Damn, I'm feeling so frustrated. And just one day, seriously, it literally took one day, maybe two. Okay, if I'm being realistic, maybe 2 days. It took me 2 days of regulating myself a bit more, journaling. I literally sent an audio to Lisa and I cried a bit because I needed to let that emotion out. And she's incredible. She always, holds space for me, and I love her for that. And so I was crying in the audio, and I was just opening up to that frustration because I needed that release as well. It's not like you just have to pop back in and you're 100% positive. You go into from rock bottom to oh yeah. That's also unsustainable, because that's what I was realizing. I was fluctuating so much. I was feeling really good, but then really fucking bad. And that's actually low-key when you are unbalanced, right? But when you create a neutral tone in your life, a neutral standard, let's say, of how you show up for yourself, it helps you not fluctuate so intensely, so extremely, if that makes sense, right? So I think that's also what I realized. I'm having these moments where I'm feeling really high in my energy and wow, oh my god, and that's cool. But then the fall feels so much bigger. And it's not because I'm going higher, because I'm feeling super excited. It's actually because like I'm unbalanced. Because of course life is supposed to feel exciting, but I think I was getting excited because of maybe external validation that was giving me like a spike in energy, a spike in motivation, a spike in inspiration. Suddenly it's like, oh, this makes sense again, let's fucking go. But then if I didn't have that external validation, and if suddenly something didn't go exactly according to plan, it was just like I was taking a fucking deep dive, you know? So that's what I realized. Like I needed to find a neutral tone for myself so that, you know, I'm not dependent on that external validation. I'm not dependent on the things that I'm achieving. And that's exactly my point. Like your life and the way you feel, it shouldn't be dependent on those accomplishments, because that literally comes and goes. You know, like that might work out one day and the next day it doesn't feel so easy, or, you know, things feel a bit whatever. Like that fluctuates, and you don't have to fluctuate with that. You can fluctuate with yourself and with your body, with your hormones, but you shouldn't fluctuate based on what's happening externally. Like you should feel really secure in yourself and like centered in yourself to the point where whatever's going on, like it doesn't dictate your state of mind. It doesn't dictate your mood swings. Like that should never be up to something else or to someone else. It should always be up to you, which is when self-devotion becomes so like such a priority. That's why I preach that so much. And it's not like I don't have to remind myself as well. Of course I do. Clearly. I still have to like remind myself like, oh, right, there's a reason why I decided on all these commitments for 2026. So it literally took me 2 days of really being with myself, restoring my energy, like regulating. And suddenly I felt like this weight off my shoulders. I felt more detached. I felt better about myself. I felt better about my life, because my life isn't dependent on whatever I'm trying to create. I've been getting really excited about the goals that I have, and it's beautiful to be excited about your goals and to be excited about your dreams, to finally give yourself permission to want the things that you want. That is so incredible in of itself. It shouldn't take away from the quality of life that we want for right here, right now. I'm not an advocate for this idea that you have to sacrifice your current life for the future. One thing is to sacrifice your comfort. That we might have to do a ton fuck. Growth requires discomfort, period. If you're not uncomfortable at some point, you're not growing, actually. Growing pains, they come together. That expansion comes with contraction. It's just normal. Like you have tension before release, you know, those are normal cycles. But your well-being, your mental health, your sense of security with yourself, that is the baseline. Without that, it's really hard to take the leap. It's really hard to do the hard thing. It's really hard to show up for yourself from that highest self. So make that your priority and really think about what would support you most in this season of your life. How do you want to show up, and how do you want to feel in your life, and how can you bring more of that feeling forward? To me, what I realize is like, I want to feel more content and more relaxed and more like safe in my body. I don't want to depend on these external things. And so I turned a bit inward in the sense of like, let me like regulate, let me find safety, let me find wholeness with myself, let me come back home. There's no better feeling than that. And then like, what else makes my life interesting, and how can I bring more of that magic and that excitement into my life that isn't reliant on this one thing? Because that's the thing, and that's what I wanted to say in the beginning. It's like, you shouldn't be so focused on one area of your life that everything else disappears. Like, you know, if you're focused on your relationship, like you should continue to have friends, you should continue to have goals in your career, you should continue to move forward in all these other areas of your life. You should definitely continue to choose yourself and invest in yourself and spend time with yourself. Like, of course you are the center of all of that. And it's the same way for career. Like, your career shouldn't take away from your friends, from your relationship, from your well-being, from pursuing other passions, from enjoying life. Like, because then life becomes so serious, life becomes so heavy when all you are doing is living for that one thing, for that one goal, for that one achievement that you want so badly, and you're putting basically all your sense of accomplishment and worth, really, and even identity into accomplishing that thing, into like making it happen. And so when it doesn't happen right away, then it makes you question more of yourself than it is supposed to. Like, it makes you question your capabilities, and makes you question your worth, and makes you question life in general in a way that it wouldn't be needed, right? Like, it, because it's important, it's beautiful, but it's, at the end of the day, it's not that serious. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, everything has its timing, and we shouldn't live managing time in that sense of like, oh, is it ready yet? Oh, is it like, if you're baking a cake, you don't have to look every 1 minute and be like, oh, are we there? Oh, is it, it's the same way if you're going on a trip. Like, you're not going to be every fucking second looking at the clock. You only do that when you're in a rush, but life isn't meant to be rushed. It's meant to be enjoyed, and that's when you really have to clock it. No pun intended. You need to clock it and be like, am I enjoying my life enough right now? And it's okay if you aren't. Beautiful to be honest with yourself. I think that has become like kind of a superpower in the last year. Like, I became ruthless and honest with myself because, going to therapy and having people that like allow you to go deeper, it was a commitment to myself that I wanted to be as truthful, as honest, as transparent, like as possible. So I've become much better at understanding when I'm BSing myself. So that's definitely a superpower. But that's why accountability and self-reflection can be really powerful. Obviously, you shouldn't just stay there. Like, you should take action, obviously, towards the things that you want, and actually show up that way, not just talk, like move, actually take a step. But that level of accountability, that level of like clocking yourself in and being genuinely honest, like, it might feel uncomfortable, it might feel like somehow you are shaming yourself or something, like it might bring all those feelings, but it is empowering, because once you know that you are not in alignment, or that you are in a way like stuck in this old pattern, but truthfully it is your choice, and when you understand your responsibility, your part that you're playing in it, then you can remove yourself, then you can really like pick that up and understand, okay, like, how can I start changing this? And a lot of the time, starting to change your pattern, you don't necessarily have to change the pattern itself. Like, if I feel like I'm stuck in my business, or I'm stuck in this one area of my life, a lot of the times thinking more about it hasn't been helpful to me. Like, what helps me is actually come back to myself and remember that I'm complete, that I'm whole, that I'm all that I need to be right now, that I'm safe, that I'm okay, and that I can already feel fulfilled. Because when you create that space, it creates detachment towards that thing, and you think more clearly, because again, you're not betting all your resources on it. And that can be a really good thing. Of course, you need to be all in for the things that you want, but one thing is to be all in. Another thing is to suffocate yourself until there's nothing left of you to give. Like, that's not the point. Like, you shouldn't be squeezing yourself into creating the life of your dreams. You should be filling yourself up into pouring out all of that creation that wants to come through, that creativity, that inspiration, and that alignment, that, that courage, even that strength. Like, it comes from building yourself up, not like stripping yourself down, or like pushing yourself down, or shaming yourself, or being harsh with yourself, or pushing yourself more and more and more until you're completely burned out and you have nothing to give. That could never be the solution to building something beautiful and magical, and definitely not sustainable. So really think about that. I am thirsty. Okay, why didn't I bring water here? And so yeah, that has been such an important priority for me now. And I just want you to like know that. I wanted to remind you here, because I know how often we kind of forget why we decided the things that we decided. We get lost in our emotions and our old stories. And when we literally, like, that's clouding us, it can feel like that's our entire reality. You know, it can feel like that's the only thing that exists because we're not seeing clearly. So you do what grounds you most. And again, to me, that has looked like taking those 10 minutes of silence, not scrolling so much. Oh my God, the scrolling messes with your brain. Seriously, like every time, like one of the things that I wanted to do is like every time I want to scroll, I'm going to read. I'm going to read smut so that I can, inspire myself, motivate myself into actually not scrolling. Because if I want to read a book, if I'm excited about it, like it gives me one less reason to like stop myself in my tracks and actually do something that like brings me joy, rather than being like, oh, now I just have to stare at the ceiling and be bored for hours, like, no, you can still do something enjoyable, like do I know how to speak? Hello? Something that actually, like a book that I loved. It was I think it was my first self-help book, actually, called Atomic Habits. I should read that book again, I feel like. But it talks about basically like replacing habits, like, right? Like, because if you try to change your habit or take away one habit and you don't have anything to replace it, it actually is harder to follow through. So you always want to like replace one habit with another. And it has to be the easiest choice ever, right? Like it has to feel the most seamless to you. So try to think about how you can replace that one habit that is clearly standing in your way or holding you back, and do it with something that can bring you an equal amount, or at least like as equal amount of pleasure and happiness and fulfillment as it can. To me, like reading smut is pretty motivating, you know what I mean? So I was holding out on reading that book because I'm reading this self-help book, and I told myself, like, only when I'm finished, I will read the smutty one. But then I realized, like, dude, I'm scrolling so much more, though. Like, I would rather change up this. And so I decided to read it again, and that has definitely helped. I feel like I can be much more easily entertained. And so, yeah, that allows me to, like, lock into that specific commitment, because that's the thing, like scrolling can really take away your power, and it just makes you overthink so much more because you're seeing all this information, you're receiving all this information, but then you're not actually deciding. It actually confuses you more, and it gets you stuck in indecision, which is so disempowering. And it actually, like, that's what gets you stuck, it's when you're not making choices, it's when you're not moving forward. And social media, like, I'd say the negative impact of it is that it gets you in that feeling of being stuck rather than feeling like you have momentum. It cuts the momentum out of what you're trying to build for yourself. Because again, it makes you overthink, overanalyze. It makes you feel like maybe you're doing something wrong. Maybe you should be doing something different. And then you're not sure what, because there's so many options. There's so many things you could do. So to me, that has become such an important thing, especially as someone who works with social media. Like, dude, like if I'm always looking at other people's content, like you have no idea the impact that it has on my inspiration. Like, I am someone who always has ideas, who always has something to say. Clearly, like, I don't know how, but I somehow every fucking week I have something to say here on the podcast. And I love it. I love that about me. And I know it's my superpower. And yet, if I start scrolling a bit more, suddenly my brain is like completely blank. I don't have ideas. I don't have inspiration because I'm overthinking everything. Because I get stuck in that perfectionism. Because I'm seeing people do it in a different way that I, in my perspective, is deemed better or more professional or more whatever, and then it only makes me not want to do it. So I literally block myself out. Like, it's almost like I'm closing my box of ideas, and I'm just like telling myself it's not good enough, and eventually they're not really like showing up for me anymore. Like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, no, because I'm rejecting one after the other until I'm dry, and that is really frustrating when you make content for a living. So that can apply obviously to your life as well, in terms of how you want to show up and the things that you want to do, the choices that you want to make. Like, it kind of puts you in this place where you're not making decisions, whether that's changing careers or yeah, just changing your lifestyle. It's better to experiment and fail and get it wrong and learn from that than to stay in your head and try to find the perfect way of moving forward. Like, that's never gonna be the solution. Believe me, I've tried that, and it just doesn't work because you get really frustrated with yourself, and from that frustration you can't create. Like, create, the energy of creating is the same energy of receiving, and it's an energy of openness, it's an energy of like allowing, it's a surrender, it's a detachment, it's also like a sense of trust and security and confidence that you can build, that, you know, like you follow through. It's like when you listen to your intuition, if you're constantly blocking that, like, it's there, right? But it's not going to come through, and you just need to trust it. When it comes, you follow through without thinking, you just do it. And I think creating is kind of the same. Like, if inspiration hits, if an idea comes through, if an opportunity presents itself to you, it's gonna, like, you're supposed to follow that flow, and usually that flow only opens truly, especially in the most aligned way possible. Like, that only opens when you are open yourself, because again, life is a reflection of us. Right? So you need to be open. And how can you be open if you feel unsafe? How can you be open if you're like under so much stress and pressure? And a lot of the times, even if our circumstances can be stressful sometimes and can create tension, ultimately we can dissolve that. Like, we have that responsibility still. A lot of the times, even without realizing, we choose that stress because that's just what we're used to. We're used to being in that fight or flight. We used to struggling, and we somehow convince ourselves that it's not possible to do it any other way. And that's when you need to clock yourself and be like, this is actually the decision that I'm making to continue to stay stressed. I can choose something different. I can change the pattern. Because even if I had a stressful day, it doesn't mean that I have to carry that with me for the next one. Or it doesn't mean that if I have this one moment of tension in my day, it doesn't mean that I have to let that heaviness be instilled in me for the rest of the day. And I don't have to build a story around it. It can just be a cloud that passed by. You know, just imagine if every cloud that passed by, we were like, oh my God, the world is ending. Oh shit, the world is definitely ending with this next one. You know, like, you just have to understand, like, it's just the weather. It's just the weather. We're still here at our house, which is ourselves in this case. And that never changes. That never fucking changes. Especially when you build it brick by brick. You're not just... It kind of reminds me of the story of, like, the 3 pigs and the wolf. Is that an international story? I think it is. Like, you can't build your house with, like, those thingies, right? Like, you need to build it with bricks. That takes consistency, that takes intentionality, because if you build it any other way, as soon as something inconvenient or something that you weren't expecting or something that wasn't exactly aligned with what you wanted, like, as soon as a minor inconvenience comes, it can't shake you to the core. It can shake a little. You might, you know, feel a bit of a trembling. You might feel a bit of fear and discomfort, and it might, like, even stumble. Like houses on an earthquake or something, they might swing side to side, but they stay on because they're made for that. And that's literally how your day-to-day life should be. Like, it should be made to handle whatever comes. And that is the self-devotion that we need in our lives. And that shouldn't be something that we do just when we're feeling good. It shouldn't be something that we do when we're feeling empowered and inspired. It should become as crucial and as just second nature as brushing our teeth. And I'm saying us because I feel like I'm still needing to remind myself of this, honestly. There, in many ways, I'm already showing up for myself. But in other ways, I'm still letting it be up to debate. And I'm still somehow finding myself sometimes not taking myself accountable for that when it is my responsibility. And so I'm finding that right now. And this is why I'm saying this on the podcast because this is me making a decision to show up in that way, and I want to kind of like transport you into that journey as well, because I've realized just how important that is. And it feels like every time you hit rock bottom and you find a way to get back up, like you kind of figure it out and then you kind of lose it again. So you need to stop making it a like seasonal thing. It has to be there with you all the time. It doesn't mean that it's not gonna change throughout each season, but that the intention to be devotional to yourself is still there. The intentional to build a neutral tone with yourself should be there. The intention to build yourself brick by brick, or a sense of security built by brick by brick, something that's solid, something that's reliable truly, that should always be there. That's how you grow. That's how you evolve. That's how you move forward, right? Like growth cannot exist without structure. Growth cannot exist without a sense of inner security and inner safety, because growth is the type of thing that shakes you. It's the type of thing that, like, you know, it's when the weather feels like it's going to shit. If you don't have a proper jacket, you're fucked. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be prepared, because growth does take discomfort. Growth really challenges you and shakes you and questions you, you know? Like, it's when you are really stripped down from anything that isn't that core. So to have that core feel secure to you, like, that's the most important thing. And the reason why you want growth, because you might be like, yeah, well, like, I'm good. You know, I don't need more. You do though. Well, I'm not saying that you need more, but you definitely want more. And all of the times we just let ourselves be content when we're actually not satisfied with our lives, or we're not feeling like we're fully in our purpose, but we're just kind of convincing ourselves of that, because truthfully, staying comfortable feels better. At least short term, it feels better. Long term, it feels like you're literally like dying. But do not convince yourself that you don't want to grow. I think everyone desires to grow. Everyone desires to keep evolving. Everyone desires more. And I don't mean just materialistically. I mean in terms of purpose. There's more purpose. There's more mission. There's more like that you want to create. You never just like, you know, if you have an author or an artist, they don't just create a painting and that's it. If being an artist is their soul mission, if it's like in their veins type of thing, if it's like truly a part of their higher self and their soul's path and what they came here to do and create, it will stay with them. That's something that they don't lose. Just like bringing yourself joy is always going to be there, and throughout the years that's going to look different. So let's say that what brings you joy now isn't what brings you joy in 20 years, but you don't give yourself permission to evolve from one thing and to another. Like, you're literally making yourself miserable for no reason. You need to let yourself evolve, because of course with the experiences that you have, of course with the people that you meet along the way, with everything changing around you, it changes you as well. It changes your perspective, it changes your knowledge, it changes your horizon, and you need to let yourself evolve. That's the only way. Like, imagine if you were still living like a teenager, you know? That wouldn't be good to create the life that you want in 20 years, right? Like, you need to give yourself permission to evolve. Growth, evolution, like, that's the same thing. That literally means the same thing. You're not growing to be better. You're growing to continue to honor yourself, right? Like, you're not growing to be enough or to be this, like, ideal version of yourself in the sense of like, oh, this is the only way I'm enough, this is the only way I'm worthy, this is the only way I can be proud of myself. It's more about letting yourself evolve naturally, as you do, as we do, as human beings, as animals, as nature. Everything evolves always, you know. And so of course you want to evolve, of course you're going to change naturally, and self-devotion helps you give yourself permission to do so, because you know that you have something to rely on. You have something that you feel secure with, and that gives you more courage, that gives you more strength, that gives you more resilience. And so that's really invaluable. If you think about it, that's the most invaluable thing you have, the way you're showing up for yourself. Self-devotion is literally the most invaluable thing we have. And no one, nor nothing can give us that. Like, that's a choice, which makes it the most empowering thing ever if you really think about it. Because you always get to choose how you show up for yourself. You might not always get to choose what happens in your life or how things turn out or how circumstances unfold, but you always get to choose how you show up in your life and how you show up for yourself. You always get to choose what you make out of it. And it should not influence how you choose to show up for yourself. The way you show up for yourself, when you show up from that place of like, I want to continue to give myself permission to evolve. I want to give myself like a neutral tone so that I can feel secure enough to evolve. Like, doing that no matter what, that literally is you loving yourself in the best way possible. You know, that is the highest form of self-love. It's not buying yourself flowers, and it's not, you know, going on solo days. That's beautiful, very needed. It's nice to spoil yourself, but self-love that like hits you in your fucking heart is when you tell yourself like, I'm gonna keep showing up no matter what. I still have myself. No matter what, I'm gonna create safety. No matter what, I'm gonna choose to bring myself into a different state. I'm gonna choose to make space for where I am. I'm gonna choose to regulate myself. Like, that is self-love. It's investing and nurturing yourself. Because sometimes you might need support with that, and that's totally normal. That actually is necessary. I feel like, honestly, after the year that I had in 2025, it became very obvious to me that investing in yourself is literally key. You cannot evolve alone. You can't. Like, you might be able to do it to a certain point, but like, there's always going to be a ceiling, and someone can let you break through that so much more easily, because they see outside of you and because they have a different perspective. Investing in yourself is literally also a form of self-devotion, in whatever form that comes. When you create that like true internal meaning, when you decide to invest in yourself and nurture yourself, not just at a superficial level, but when you go deeper and when you're like actually giving yourself good input on like a deeper level, that's what impacts you most, and that's where you should focus on. Everything else comes and goes. Everything else is temporary. That stays. That creates a difference, because who I was 3 years ago, when I was still in 3 years ago or 4, well, I don't remember, but when I was still in my relationship, when my toxic relationship, who I was then and who I am now, like, the reason why that changed, it wasn't just because I created a mindset shift, and it wasn't just because my environment changed. It was because I started showing up differently. And back then, journaling or making space for my emotions, that was really hard. And now I make that so much more easily, and in many ways it has become second nature. And that's what actually evolved. That's what gave me the structure to evolve. You can't build a better house or a bigger house with the same structures from your old one, right? Like, that changes. That's what true evolution looks like. You change yourself to change your reality. You change the structure to change the house. It's the same thing, because what happens if you try to build a house with the old structures? It falls apart, especially like a gush of wind falls apart. So let's not even think about when like something actually hard comes, like grief or a breakup or something like that. It literally feels like everything is falling apart, because in a way everything is. And it leaves you with what? With the structure. It leaves you with facing yourself. So sometimes those rock bottoms can be really powerful, and I'm sure I wouldn't even be here if I didn't go through what I did last year. And those are the moments that we are literally being called to look at ourselves truthfully. But we shouldn't wait for those moments to do what needs to be done. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, that structure, if we continue to work on it, if we dedicate ourselves to it, then we don't need to wait for something terrible to happen for us to change. Why should we wait for that? Why not give ourselves the permission to do that right now? Why not give ourselves the permission to evolve as we are right now? Why not give ourselves the permission to be happy now without something terrible having to happen for us to make a decision? Like, that's only actually wasting your time. Because sure, that moment is going to come, and maybe you're going to bounce back, and maybe that's going to make you stronger. But like, if you stop waiting for that moment to hit, and you just change right now, if you're feeling neutral enough, right, like that is the best thing you can do for yourself, because then yeah, it really saves you time instead of having to wait 6 months till you reach rock bottom. Like as soon as you notice that you're getting maybe a little too comfortable, or that life is becoming a bit stressful, or that you are getting back into an old pattern, like you clock it, you change, you show up differently, and you can move forward instead of always having to go back. I mean, of course you never truly go back. Well, I guess you do actually. Like you can be stuck in a pattern. And when you are, it does take you back in a way. Because maybe you are gathering more information, but maybe it's not integrated yet. So that integration is literally you showing up differently. Because if I think about my breakup, like for literal years, I was going back to the same pattern. Breaking up, making up, breaking up, making up, breaking up, making up. Nothing was changing until I changed. So in a way, yes, you can actually go back to the start of the loop, and the loop continues and the loop continues, and it's not going to break until you do, and it shouldn't be you breaking. It should be the pattern breaking by you, right? So having that sovereignty, having that like decision making, or having that like courage to decide rather than letting the world decide for you, rather than letting things get so out of hand that you have to be forced to decide. Like, choose to decide now. Choose to look at yourself as you are and make the decision from where you are. Do not wait for something to have to change, because again, it's just a waste of time. You don't need to do that. So the way to gain that courage is again by building that security, by building that safety. And that comes in many forms. Obviously, you have to find your own, but regulating your nervous system is something that I talk here and there. I might not be an expert in that, but from the investments that I've made this last year, like it did give me so many tools that I use now on a daily basis. But also, journaling and allowing yourself to cry when you need to cry, and talking to yourself and being kind to you, and having these little rituals that truly make a difference. And a lot of those, again, I have already in the Girls in Growth store for you. Like I've been uploading there, like my meditations, the practices that truly impact me on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So you can literally check it out. And I guess if you hear this before Valentine's Day, you can actually participate in my Valentine's Day circle. We are doing it on the 14th for an hour. You can join us and really dive into your power, your magnetism, your essence, so that you can come back into that structure and really nurture it from the inside out. It's going to be super fun. We're going to be doing a bunch of exercises and just letting ourselves take that time to celebrate ourselves, to get back home into ourselves. So it's going to be such a wholesome circle, such a wholesome way of connecting with yourself and reminding yourself of how you can show up differently. So I'm going to again be sharing a lot of practices with you that I do on a daily, weekly basis. So definitely go check it out. I'm going to leave the link of the store down below. It's going to be there in the circles section of the store, so you could go check it out. And if you don't make it in time, again, you already have some exercises there, like meditations, practices that you can find in the meditations section of the store. Go check it out, and I love you. I think that's it. I'll be back next week. Love you. Bye.